So today I wanted to give Shenhe her own video because she has proved incredibly useful since Miss Coffee's, release. And honestly, there's not much to it. She's just good. I mean, we're gonna see in this video directly that when she has her E skill up, Ayaka's burst starts hitting double as strong, and that's pretty good. That's double as strong for, 5 hits, and double as strong for 5 hits is 150,000. And you theoretically should be able to get 2 E skills off, which means Shenhe is providing, 300,000 damage. It's not, oh my god, amazing damage, but you have to also think about she's providing damage bonus. She's providing a little bit of res shred, right? It's not an insignificant amount, but when you go ahead and have, Miss Coffee on the team and she's doing 55% res shred, a lot of other characters res shred is a little insignificant. So my rotation, I think, is what it's just gonna be is this. So we're gonna have this, and then we're gonna go ahead, we'll do this. Seems like Miss Coffee is actually gonna be a little low. So yeah, we could see that we saw 70,000 damage from the E skill there, and then yeah, you see 36,000, and then it goes up to 62,000. Legitimately 2 times the burst damage there. And we saw a whole bunch of other characters getting more damage, because I said 150,000 up to 100 whatever thousand, and that's not including Miss Coffee. So that means Shenhe is doing like 600,000 damage on this team, if we just use all that. But I mean, it's a little different for Miss Coffee because she doesn't have as high of crit damage, right, as my Ayaka, because Ayaka's on Blizzard Strayer and Miss Coffee is on her Golden Shroop set. But then again, 50% damage bonus, actually 70%, yeah. It is 70% damage bonus, which is a massive thing for Miss Coffee, meaning she would have, 116% damage bonus. That'd be pretty sick. Combine that with Fiorina, and you're looking really good. And then you have, Shenhe herself, and then, yeah, it's good. It's good. You start racking up points that make Shenhe's flat buff go really high. It basically is what it is. And what I've noticed is that generally, Shenhe is basically, whenever she has this up, whenever this is buffing the characters, this is basically doubling their damage. It's very good. There's no, way to cut around it. Like, it's just good. And we can go ahead and we can, I really want to redo the Ayaka video, because I really feel like the Ayaka video needs to be redone. There's something about it, man. It doesn't sit right with me how, Ayaka only hit 1.8 million. And also, I forgot to mention, I don't have Shenhe's best, signature weapon, right? I'm missing a lot of attack, I would say. So yes, Shenhe is very good now. I really feel like it was really more so like we don't have the res shred, right? The res shred increases the flat buff, also. I think it's a weird relationship, because obviously if the enemy has higher cryo resistance, your flat buff isn't going to do as much. It's as simple as that. So the flat buff, now that we have a proper res shredder, and we have a lot of stuff, and we have Miss Coffee giving 60% crit damage to whoever we use her on, I mean, it's pretty good, right? It's pretty good. So this time I want to check out specifically Miss Coffee, and I want to see her damage, because I mean, it's going to be very useful to see this. So let's go ahead and use the E skill. 32,000 there, and I'm just gonna do that, and we can see 32,000, and let's see 50,000. So little less than all right, we can talk about that, right? Again, less crit damage, right? So that's about 40% less crit damage and stuff. Not necessarily as insane, right? But she does get a lot of cryo damage bonus, but so does Ayaka. Ayaka has a lot of cryo damage bonus. I mean, right now she's randomly sitting at 12%. What? Why is she sitting at 12% randomly? I don't know why my Ayaka has... Oh, it's because she has her weapon. Right. Ayaka gets just 12% damage bonus and stuff. Like, she gets a lot of damage bonus from this. So yeah, that kind of offsets it. Yeah. So Ayaka also is getting a lot of damage bonus. So we did see, the drop off, right? Because Miss Coffee doesn't have as high of, damage boosting stats, right? However, Ayaka, she's able to get 30,000. Miss Coffee, she was more in the 20,000 range, right? We saw she 22,000, I think is what it was, because she went up from 32 to 54, right? So we saw that. it's all right. It's all right. We can't like be like, oh wow, it's bad. No, it's all right. I mean, like you go, and hit that much damage is not bad. And don't forget, Shenhe is giving damage bonus, right? 15% cryo damage bonus, and then you also have elemental skill and elemental burst damage bonus, and this matters, right? This extra, that's 30% damage bonus just from this, right? I would say honestly, Miss Coffee's release has really made me like Shenhe more. I think this character is so much better than when she was before Miss Coffee's release, because before Miss Coffee's release, it was whatever. This character is way too niche. But now after Miss Coffee's release, it's like this character basically needs to be on the team, and if you get rid of her on the team, the other options are so much worse, right? Who are you going to get rid of on the team for this character, right? Shenhe, obviously, let's all, raise our hands and say it. On this team, well, I guess Ayaka would be the first to be replaced, but on this team, Shenhe is the first to be replaced in terms of support, right? We can talk about that right now. Like, who are you using? Seat Lolly? Do you guys really need to, Rice Shred 20% Hydro that much, right? When Miss Coffee is doing already 55%, and she's giving 48% attack to Ayaka. That's cool and all, but that's not giving anything to Miss Coffee, right? That's not giving any damage bonus to Miss Coffee, right? She can run Cinder. She can, if you really were desperate for it. But then, Yelan. Yelan is a viable option on certain teams like Risley. I think Yelan might be better because Risley is just doing too many attacks that Shenhe's buff doesn't really buff all that. And, Yelan gives 40% damage bonus to all of his, well, 40%, I'm just going to say it's 40% damage bonus to all his attack. Not actually, but like it is. Like Yelan would be a good, that's the next best option. But when it comes to a team like this, where Shenhe has access to 2 other cryo characters and she's buffing 2 other cryo characters for 10 hits of her E-skill, that's really strong. Being able to get the 2 E-skills into the Ayaka rotation, because it's just throw the burst out, switch back into Shenhe, use her E-skill, it's really good. It is. It increases the overall like damage that this character is doing really nicely. And if that wasn't the case, she probably wouldn't even make the team. I'm be honest. I think Yelan might be better if you're only using 1 E-skill. I might be wrong on that. I'm not like spreadsheeted out, right? I haven't like seriously sat down and compared those characters. I'm purely just like going off the top of my head. I feel like that would be the scenario that you would end up in. And yeah, like Kokomi, a healer, 48% attack, I guess, but like that's it. That's all she's giving. That is it. Like there's not a lot of other characters. Ganyu, she can give you 20% cryo damage bonus and some off-field damage. But I mean, I haven't talked about it. Shenhe can do off-field damage. Let's look at my build. She is not built to do off-field damage. I mean, it's not an awful build by any means. I think my build probably isn't. Yeah, my build's probably not that amazing. Let me talk. My Shenhe build is top 20%, so it's not bad, but it's not something that I'm like super, amazed about. It's the same thing with Miss Coffee. I'm like, man, top 20%, like that top 20% on my account feels bad. Although Shenhe's build isn't like the worst, obviously. There is also a situation of like maybe Noblesse would be better here, because now being able to buff Miss Coffee, that'd be pretty sick. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it for this video. Honestly, I just really think that Shenhe has been severely helped out by Miss Coffee, and overall just it feels so much better to run this character now, and it's not like she's bringing dead weight, mainly because Miss Coffee is pulling the weight, but this character now, even being as like she should probably be better because she is pure, like legitimately, we could tell, this character Shenhe released at the peak of cryo. This character released and we were like, why did this character get released? That cryo was already good, right? That is where we were at. We were like, cryo is already like the best team in the game. Freeze teams are already the best team in the game. And then they released another, like they released Shenhe. And it was like, why? We could tell they held their punches with Shenhe. They did. And it shows nowadays, right? Because nowadays it's like, it's not even a question of who we're getting rid of on this team, right? It's not even a question, because these 2 characters are modern characters that, Freeze had already been power crept by Hyper Bloom. It was just like these characters. Miss Coffee is literally modern Shenhe. That's it. That's all she is. It's literally just modern Shenhe. That's it. So yeah, I definitely feel like Shenhe, well, she's good, she's absolutely not, good in the sense of like, I would say she's good for freeze, right? She's good for the freeze teams, not an actual good character, right? I think that is where she lies at this point, because freeze teams, it's like, wow, she's like clearly the best option, especially, well, mainly if your character, like your main DPS is Cryo, right? Grizzly, it's a little debatable. But Shenhe here is certainly a character that I feel like she's very strong, and I think she's good for freeze, but she's not good really anywhere else. Even if I were to take off Shieldon, like if I were to put Shieldon in here instead of Miss Coffee, I don't think I would do that. I think I would rather take Shenhe off and put Shieldon on. I think that would be the situation. I'd rather do that than take Miss Coffee off, because the team, again, it's just like these characters are the clear winners of everything. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.